Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Tuesday, the 25th of February 2025. You are watching Morning Brew with me, Graham Hughes, here on Politics Social. Big shout out to everyone in the chat. We have, who have we got in the chat this morning? We've got Koala Meat, we've got Sarah Davis, we've got Billy Kershaw, we've got Power to the People, we've got Anne Phillips in there, Leonardo's Embroidery Journey, Veg Pie is in there. Hi, Veg Pie. We've got Sarah Davis and Richie Goff. If you would like to join them in the chat, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button and you can join them in the chat. But don't be a troll or we will mute you and then boot you. So be warned. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about, is it safe to fly to America? And I'm going to say no. I'm just going to say no. Just straight out the bat, I'm going to say no. Okay, that's my conclusion. Short show. See you all tomorrow. Bye. No, we're going to go into it a little bit more. But obviously, I achieved a certain level of notoriety as being the first person to visit every country in the world without flying. And so, I'm not entirely enamored with flying. I don't have a problem with being up in the air. I'm not scared of being up in the air. I've done bungee jumping. I've jumped out of a plane with a parachute. Skydiving, that's the stuff. I've done skydiving. I've done parasailing. I've done all that kind of shit. So, it's not something that I think, oh shit, better not get in the plane because something bad might happen. It's not that. For me, it's more about the experience of going on a plane these days. It's just absolutely brutal. Starts off at trying to get to the airport, the way they trick you into paying to drop someone off because you go down the wrong route and they put tiny little signs there so you don't know which way to go. And then suddenly you're in the long stay car park and it's £10 to get back out immediately, which I think should be against the law. So you're stressed out before you get there and you get in and then you have all the different desks, but obviously they're not manned anymore because you've got to check in with your on your phone or on a computer, but then you still have to go and weigh your luggage, and then you got the stress of your luggage maybe being slightly overweight or like, did I put that in there? Oh no. And did you pack your luggage yourself? Blah 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 blah. And then it's security. And security is like my worst nightmare, having to stand in a freaking queue, right? I'm ADHD. Don't like queuing in the best of times. Standing in a queue, especially somewhere like Manchester, like a third world country, where you have to be in this room and it's got a really low ceiling and it's dead hot and there's screaming kids and there's people in the way and there's only 2 conveyor belts open for some reason and 1,000 people behind you and you're late for your flight. But, why not just take forever to process people? And then that's when you realise that you had a little tiny Swiss Army knife still in your backpack from when you went to Glastonbury 3 years earlier. And you're like, oh, what's this? You're like, oh, for fuck's sake. Or you got some water, for heaven forfend, that's got to go. Or, one time I had a bottle of wine that was bought for me by the production company on a gig I was working on in Cyprus, and it got confiscated off me in Greece because I had to change planes in Greece. And I couldn't take the bottle, even though it was still in the box and sealed and it had the receipt. I couldn't take it on the plane with me, so I had to throw that really expensive bottle of wine away. I did. Do you know what I should have done? Thinking back, I should have just gone over and smashed it. Do you know what I mean? Just to make sure that those fuckers in the airport couldn't drink it on me. Anyway, so that whole process is just so horrific to me on every level. So unpersonal, the way that you're treated, especially in really, really shit airports like Manchester. Manchester's the shittest airport in the world. I've probably been to over 100 airports around the world in my time. I do fly. I don't it's not my religion not to fly. It's not like not eating bacon if you're Jewish. I do fly now and again. And of all the airports I've ever been to, from little tiny airstrips in Papua New Guinea and Panama to big, massive international what do we call it? Jumble sales? No. big, absolutely massive sites like in America or across Europe. I've never been anywhere where it's been as bad as Manchester. Manchester's off the charts for me. I would rather pay an extra £100 for the flight and fly from Newcastle because at least then, I can get there fairly easily. It doesn't cost me £100 on the train because that's how much it costs to get to Manchester and back. Well, that's actually more than that now. Great. Privatise the trains. But yeah, and then the process of getting on the plane as well, like queuing up and not knowing when the plane's going to leave, and then it changes its bloody gate, and then you finally get on the plane and you're crammed in there like sardines, screaming baby, always next to you, and it's just horrible. It is just one of the worst, most torturous human experiences that we go through by choice. I mean, I could equate it to childbirth, but that'll probably be a bit sexist and wrong. But like, you sort of look at it and go, okay, well, that's an absolute necessity to keep the human race going. I get it. Whereas this, why do we do it to ourselves? Why have we made flying so fucking unpleasant? And I'll tell you why we've done it. It's on a greater scheme, okay? Greater thing. One thing you've got to understand about the rich, the filthy rich, the billionaires, the scumbags who rule the world, the deep state, they are the billionaires, is they absolutely hate us having what they have. They want to have something else. They want to have something separate. They want to have an experience of flying that's nice, but that's not enough for them in their private jets. They need to know that we're having an absolute torrid time flying. It can't be a luxury for us because this is the way these demented fuckheads think. If you're a billionaire, by and large, unless you're Selena Gomez or Taylor Swift, you're probably a psychopath. Okay, that's just the way it is. You're an evil person. You don't want the best for the planet because heaven knows a few billionaires getting together could literally feed the world, end world hunger, and they could also, end climate change from happening. They could stop it. They have the power. They have the money, but they choose not to do that. And you look at Brexit, and obviously I love bringing Brexit into everything, but it's the same thing. The billionaires like Farage and all those creepy bastards like Rees-Mogg and Tice and Mogg and, what's his name? Gove and Johnson and Cummings, privately educated, rich, pompous twats, the neo-aristocracy, they don't want you having what they have. It pisses them off. It's not enough for them to be able to live and work anywhere they want in the world. They have to stop you from doing that. They have to take away your rights, take away your freedoms. They have to make the process of you applying to work in across the EU, they have to make it as time-consuming and ridiculous and painful as possible so people don't bother. Because all they want to do is take away the nice things for you. If they had their way, we wouldn't have televisions, we'll be watching things on an Etch-a-Sketch, and they would have the biggest TVs in the world. It pisses them off that we have access to the internet. Twitter pissed off the billionaires so much that they clubbed together and using Elon Musk as their weirdly shaped fucking uncanny valley twatty blobfish talisman, said, right, we're going to buy it. We're going to buy this platform, the only one that realistically allows plebs like you and me to speak truth to power. We're going to buy it and fuck it up. Ha ha ha, take that, plebs. And do you know what? So many people fucking love it. They're like, oh, yeah, he's made it crap. But when it comes to like making things crap, no one does it better. Carly Simon wrote a song about the fact that nobody fucks things up better than Donald Trump. Literally no one in the world. Donald Trump is a machine for making things shit. He is responsible for the shitification of everyday life. This is a one man who has made your life more difficult for no other reason than he's a rich fucker and a psychopath, and he just doesn't want the plebs having what him and his little paedophile chums fucking have. It boils their piss. And this is why whenever someone on the left pipes up and says, hang on, what? So let me get this straight. You go into the bank and you say, I want another house. And they're like, you've already got a house. No, I want another one. Okay, how are you going to pay for it? Well, I'm going to get someone else to live in the house and they can work all day and then they can give me half their wages and that'll pay for my second house. So you're going to pay these people to be in? No, they're going to pay me. Okay, so they're going to turn the heating on it in the winter so the pipes don't burst, yeah? And they're going to pay for the heating. So, sorry, what? So you're not just buying a second house with this mortgage that we're going to give you, clearly. You're gonna get this house, right, that you don't need because you've already got a house to live in, and you're gonna put someone else in there. Not only are they gonna watch that house for you and make sure it doesn't get burgled, keep up the upkeep and stuff, they're gonna make sure it doesn't get burnt down. They're gonna make sure that it doesn't fall into disrepair. They're gonna pay for the fucking heating. Because obviously, in a house, if you don't put the heating on for a year, come back and see how it looks. See how your house looks if you haven't put the heating on for a year. It'll fucking stink. Something would have gone wrong. Are you going to check your house every day? No, I've got someone else living there. They're checking it for me. This is the mentality of the modern life, and we just think it's normal. We just take it as normal. I always remember that line from Douglas Adams talking about how ridiculous it was that we were flying around this huge nuclear fusion reactor, just millions of miles across, and we're flying around it at 76,000 miles an hour, whatever it is, on a spinning ball of dirt, and the nearest neighbor is 3 billion bloody miles away, and it's like, and the fact that we all just think this is normal is just mad. And I feel the same way about the way we treat the rich, the way we treat landlords. Like, landlords shouldn't be allowed. In my world, they would be illegal. You can rent a property from the council, and it can be one of those things where, if you pay enough rent over 25 years, the house becomes yours. But you know what you can't do? You can't use that money to buy another house and a collateral to buy another house and then get someone else to live there. Well, you do fuck all, because let's face it, landlords do fuck all. I mean, it's not a proper job. I'm going to upset some landlords in the chat. I don't give a fuck. It's an immoral way to make money. End of. It's just immoral. And you can try and convince me otherwise, but considering there's a housing shortage and no one under the age of 30 can get on the housing ladder unless mummy and daddy won the lottery. I'm sorry. You are part of the problem. You've helped this country. You should be paying the people to live in your property that is accruing value every day. And it's accruing a value because people are living in it. If people weren't living in it, if it was derelict, it would be losing value every day. You're gaining value. Not only that, is you're getting people to pay for the mortgage. Anyway, I'm getting off the topic of flights, but, that's something that happens sometimes. But, is it still safe to fly to or from America? We've had 6 collisions and 6 incidents in the last month. 4 of them were pretty fucking major. We had that horrific mid-air collision near Washington. There was a commuter plane crash in Alaska. There was the incident of the Delta plane flipping over. It came out of America. It flipped over on the runway at Pearson Airport in Toronto. The skies over North America are looking increasingly dangerous, but it's not just all, bad luck. It's not. It's Trump. It is absolutely Trump. He has not just fired people from the FAA, that the head of the FAA resigned on the day that Musk and Trump took office. And this is a guy that Musk had a beef with because the FAA fined his company, SpaceX, hundreds of thousands of dollars because they weren't following proper safety procedures when launching their stupid exploding rockets into space. Well, not into space, into the sky. They don't get as far as space because they always fucking explode. But yeah, there's been these string of disasters. There's chaos now because not just the top brass have stepped down at the FAA, but there's been massive cuts made to the FAA under Elon Musk's DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. And this is where we learn how important health and safety is. And it boils my piss when people go, oh, health and safety. Yeah, health and safety keeps us safe and keeps us healthy. If you don't have health and safety, you have things like Blowpal. You have things like Chernobyl. You have things like the Piper Alpha disaster, the King's Cross fire, Grenfell. You have these disasters and people die as a result of corners being cut. And I mean, I think for now, avoiding flights to America might be a sensible move. Not just because I think we should boycott America. So if you were thinking of going to Disneyland, Florida, hey, I've got an idea. Why don't you go to Disneyland Paris? How about that? How about you just go to Disneyland Paris instead? It's closer. It'll be cheaper to get there. And it's a lot less likely that your plane's going to crash. So like I said, we've got the there was the Delta plane flipping over. There was critical injuries reported. There was 17 injuries, which is remarkable. I mean, that was considering what happened. We've seen the footage of it. Wow. We had the small commuter plane crashing in Alaska. 10 people died. All 10 on board died. There was an air ambulance crash in Philadelphia, which crashed into the suburbs, killing 7 and injuring 19. A mid-air collision near in Washington, killing 67, which is the worst aviation disaster in America since 2001. So nearly 25 years, nearly a quarter of a century since an aviation disaster that bad in the United States, within days of Trump taking office. And then you've got these mealy-mouthed motherfuckers at the the Murdoch run press or whatever going, oh, but during Biden's first month of office, there were actually 10 plane crashes. And you're like, yeah, but they weren't as deadly, dickhead. You know, there was a few crashes where they were literally on the ground taxiing and they bumped into each other and people went, oh shit, me head. Nothing on the scale of a mid-air collision between a helicopter and a plane. And you know, if you die in a plane crash flying into America or out of America, you know what Trump's going to say? He's going to say it was the DEI that did it. It was the DEI in the kitchen with the lead pipe. Always. Fucking always. Always. Generally speaking, America's safety record is pretty decent. It's pretty strong. Yeah. But this recent spike is alarming. It is very alarming. And you can see why things are going this way. So over the weekend, Elon Musk, the most rancid man to have ever lived aside from Trump, or maybe with Trump, they're kind of like this rancid, disgusting blob thing, like at the end of the substance, kind of, I hate looking at them. I hate seeing them. I hate seeing about them. Tim, if you're watching, don't share stuff like that with me that you shared on Blue Sky. Please don't. I literally vomited into my mouth, Tim. Please don't do that again. I can't take it. I'm not into body horror. I watched The Substance, never watching it again. I watched The Fly, never watching it again. You know, entertaining, but still vomit-inducing. It makes me gag. Yeah? Please don't just... No, none of the body horror stuff concerning Trump and Musk. Ugh, they just make my fucking skin crawl. They make me want to vomit all over everything. They're so disgusting. Anyway, so what Musk did over the weekend is he sent an email off to all federal employees, all 2 million of them, saying that they had to justify their existence. Like the Inquisitor from Red Dwarf. What a tit. What an absolute tit. I mean, the day that Trump turns on him and he's left out in the cold, possibly levitating from a lamppost. I don't know. I'll have a fucking party. I'll have such a party to see these disgusting, gruesome old men brought down a peg or two. But yeah, so he's at the moment, the air traffic controllers are working 6-day weeks and 10-hour shifts, mandatory overtime. This is to cut costs somehow by getting rid of other staff members, the experience, you could pay for them, and the staffing is at dangerously low levels across America. There's confusion and fear that's been sown by Musk's Prove Your Worth email to federal employees and FAA staff not knowing if their jobs are safe or even if they should respond. They don't even know if they should respond to Musk's email. An absolute disgrace. An absolute disgrace what's happened. People are dying. Planes are falling out the sky as a result of what this horrible, gruesome, billionaire, sexually incontinent fuckwit has done. And then you've got the dangers of this overworked and overstressed FAA, right? You've got air traffic controllers working 60-hour weeks. 60-hour weeks in which one mistake can lead to the deaths of dozens, if not hundreds of people. One mistake can do that. Do you have that in your job? Because I fucking don't. I can work 60 hours a week. It doesn't make any difference to me or you. No one's going to fucking die. But they're forcing these people who already got an incredibly high stress job into more stress. And if anyone used to watch Breaking Bad, you'll know what happens when air traffic controllers get a little bit stressed. Do you see what can happen over old Albuquerque? Air traffic controllers need clarity. They need calm and regulation, not chaos. It is the most ridiculous place on earth for you to sow the seeds of chaos, because you are talking about an industry that moves around millions of civilians every day. Women, children, the elderly, the sick, the infirm, people who don't want to die for government efficiency. They don't want to die to save the federal government, the American taxpayer some money. By the way, the American taxpayer is not going to save any money at all under this Trump administration. If anything, it's going to cost them way more than it used to live, to stay alive, to just keep your head above water. They're just, the whole point of the Department of Government Efficiency is to try and find $2 trillion of savings to give massive tax breaks to the already rich. Massive tax breaks to people who have more money than they could possibly spend in their lifetime. Is it safe to fly to the US? Well, experts are saying that the US air safety system at the moment is fragile. That's the word they've used, fragile, and that this is a dangerous distraction. So my take on this, right? Two things. First of all, if you can avoid flying to the US, now might be the good time. It might be a good idea to do so, right? I also think that we should be boycotting America anyway, so going to America anyway is whatever. But what particularly pisses me off is I spent hundreds of fucking pounds, which I don't really have, getting a fucking visa to fucking America because I thought, well, if Trump doesn't win the election, I can go visit America again, try and get my filmmaking career back on track after it was so viciously derailed by Brexit. But obviously that's not going to happen. But even worse than that for me, really, is, okay, so I spent all this money, but at least here's the silver line and here's the pudding. I could change flights in America. So if there was a cheaper flight going on Delta or something via Houston to, if I wanted to go to Panama or Costa Rica, I could fly via America instead of flying via Europe. It might be cheaper, right? Wrong. I'm willing to pay a little bit of money to say, I'm willing to, spend a little less money to do something that's slightly moderately more risky, like in Panama, I might decide to take the overnight bus rather than fly. And statistically, flying is safer, ironically. But in this case, no, because it's my life. And I'm not going to cheer at saving 100 quid on a flight to Panama that's going via America. There's a good chance that plane is going to crash with me in it. So look, and then there's the other thing, right? And me, I'm Graham Hughes. I'm the guy who went to every country in the world without flying. Like, I know how to do this. I know how to get around the world without getting on a freaking plane. I feel like I experienced, and I'd love to be able to share with you even more, like how rewarding slow travel can be. And it's obviously not something that everyone can do. If you're working hard, you can't spend, weeks on a fucking cargo ship going across the Atlantic. I mean, that's just daft. But just sticking to our own continent and using the trains to get around rather than the planes, they don't offer just like a safer form of transport, but also they give for richer experiences. I really like getting the train. I really like starting conversations, not in a weird way where there's obviously a point where you should probably shut up because the person who you're talking to is completely disengaged and not interested. But that's another point. That's another thing. But I like the camaraderie of being on public transport together. The kind of thing that you don't really get on a plane because you're all facing the same direction in a plane. You've got not got much leg room. You're watching your TVs. It's just a really unpleasant experience as far as I'm concerned. And I think that this could be an opportunity for us to rethink our addiction to air travel. I mean, you're going to say, oh, but Graham, you fly still. And yeah, I will fly to Panama because getting a cargo ship, it's not just a case of it's going to be a little bit more to get a cargo ship. You're talking about like, it's going to be like 10 times more to get a cargo ship across the Atlantic all the way to Panama. It's going to be a lot more expensive. Unless I decide to make it, take a long time. If I'm happy for it to take a long time, I could get a sailboat across. I'm always looking for crew on sailboats across the Atlantic. There's a couple of things with that. You've got to be very, very trusting with someone to get on a sailboat with them and then go across an ocean. And there's been some real horror stories out there about people getting trapped on these boats and the person they're with is just a fucking fruitcake, nut job, whatever, and them not being able to escape, which always terrifies me. But the other thing is the weather. Like, across the Atlantic, you get hit by an Atlantic squall. That could be it. Lights out. End of story. And that's why, one of the reasons why I really, really respect Greta Thunberg, that as a kid, she was only about 16 when she did it, I think. She took a yacht across the Atlantic Ocean. And like, wow, kudos. For anyone who's ever spent any time on a sailboat, yacht, whatever, I don't care how luxurious it appears to be. When you're out on the open sea in the Atlantic in winter, it's not a pleasant experience. It is not a pleasant experience by any stretch of the imagination. When it's a nice day, it's a halcyon day and there's no lot of breath of wind and you're just bobbing up and down in the ocean, sunbathing on the deck, I guess it's quite nice, but if you're not, it's not. Love a train, but not for commuting. Yeah, good point. Good point, Gillian, in the chat there. Department of Government egotistical for DOGE. That's a lost tracker. Ocean liner, says Ned Gibbons. Yeah, ocean liner. I mean, we could do with getting more alternatives, more ferries. I'd like to see more ferries. I'd like to see more steam packets, equivalents around the world. There's no reason why we can't build ships that run off sails. We used to. We can again. You can build very, very big ships. They're not as fast, but who cares? If you're in a ship, there's a big movement at the moment. I kind of like go slow in the global logistics network because there's a couple of reasons for this. We used to need to have, there used to be smaller ships. So before they expanded the Panama locks at Miraflores about 10 years ago, you had a size of ship called a Panamax. And the Panamax was the biggest size ship you could fit into those locks at Miraflores. Now, they've built new ones in the last 10 years. They opened about 10 years ago. And since they opened, the size of the ships that can be built has grown quite a lot, substantially a lot wider. They used to be quite narrow in comparison with ships that didn't need to go through the Panama Canal. So now they can be wider and they can take up to something like 20,000 TEU, which is 20-foot equivalent units, or those shipping containers, 20-foot shipping containers. I think it's 20,000. If someone wants to look that up and give me the exact number for a post-Panamax ship, I'd love you to do that into the chat right now. So go do some research. Do your own research, but not if you're on a phone, because obviously you won't be able to watch this and look it up at the same time. So don't do that. But yeah, since that happened, it means that they've been able to build bigger ships. And building bigger ships comes with two sort of consequences. One is they hog more space in the ports. The ports aren't necessarily any bigger to accommodate them. I mean, some have expanded, like in Dubai and Liverpool and Brisbane, but a lot of ports around the world are the same size they always were. They can take maybe one post-Panamax ship at a time. So what's happening is that you're getting more containers on one ship instead of having fewer containers on many ships. So we're reducing the number of ships, but also because the ships are so big, it's really hard to bring them into port. You're seeing a lot more ships sitting on the horizon for days on end. And while they're sitting on the horizon, you're still having to pay the wages of all the people on the ship. You're still having to pay for the power. They don't necessarily run the engines when they're just sitting there at anchor. They'll be running a generator. You've got to pay for the food. You've got to pay for the accommodation, all that kind of stuff, right? While the ship just sits out waiting to come in to the port. So what shipping companies have started doing is going like, there's just no point in going everywhere at 20 knots. Why don't we just go everywhere at 10 knots and arrive exactly when we need to? With a bit of redundancy. You can't. If you're behind schedule and your schedule says that you've got to get somewhere at 20 knots, right, and you can't stop, and then you have to delay for whatever reason, going faster than that is not an option. But if you're going at 10 knots and wherever your destination is 10 knots away, right? Going at that speed for X many hours, and you need to get there faster, you can go up. You've got some redundancy based in there. You can go at 15, 20 knots, right? So you can get to the port exactly when you mean to be. 15 years ago, you would be on a ship, it would be going as fast as it could, especially if it was going through the Somali, off the Cape of the Cape Horn in Africa. It'd be going as fast as it can, flat out, 24 knots. It's about 30 miles an hour. Like the idea that ships go fast, it's not the case. But they would bomb along, and then they'll get to Djibouti. They might be stuck in Djibouti for a little bit longer than they need to because of paperwork. I don't know. Then they'll get to Saudi Arabia, and the Saudi Arabians authorities might come on board and go into everyone's cabins and take down the pictures of Buddha on the wall of the people working on the ship, because they're not supposed to have pictures of Buddha on the wall, apparently, if they're in Saudi Arabia, or pictures of Jesus if they're from the Philippines and they're Christian. Yeah, they get those posters ripped off the wall by the authorities. When you go into Saudi Arabia, you have to take all like religious iconography away. I once spoke to a sailor who had his Metallica Master of Puppets CD, had the booklet ripped up and thrown away because it had crosses on the front of the graves. That actually happened. Anyway, so say they're doing an inspection and it takes a couple of hours to get out of port extra because of that. Then they've got a certain time they've got to be at the Suez Canal. If they missed their timing, and I was on a boat that missed its timing by even an hour, it means that you've got to sit there at the end of the Suez Canal waiting for your next pilotage to become available. And that next pilotage will cost you an extra $27,000. So it doesn't make any sense for these ships to be bombing around everywhere. What makes more sense is for the ships to be going half the speed, and then they get to the destination whenever, and if they need to speed up, they can, right? And then they're not sitting outside at port for 10 days waiting to come in pointlessly. It's like hurrying to your destination and then queuing up outside for the shop to actually open, and you're the only one in the queue. It's crazy. Like it's a mad system. So slowing down, good idea. But what also comes with this is we can use sail power more. And they're doing this. Some shipping companies like CMA CGM are experimenting with having ships that have sails again. Because doesn't it make sense? If you only need to go at a certain amount of speed, you don't have to go that fast. They've got an engine as backup, to get in and out of port and stuff like that. But when you're in the open sea and it's windy and you can just put the sails up. It's free energy. It's moving stuff around the world and not costing anything. So, as a cost saving for these companies, they're not doing it. They're not doing it to save the world. They're doing it to save costs. And this is why I'm so engaged in the green revolution, because I think it's going to happen anyway. Just like us rejoining the EU one day, it's going to happen anyway. Whether Musk and Trump and Boris Johnson or Cummings, or whoever is Julia Hartless-Brewer saying, "Oh no, climate change isn't the thing; it's all made up. I'm going to go out now and make some toxic smoke." And you're like, "What are you doing?" "I'm making toxic smoke." "Why are you making toxic smoke, Julia Hartless-Brewer?" "I hate my children more than I hate myself." All right, Julia Hartless-Brewer, whatever. But yeah, the market will decide, because it's cheaper to use renewable energy than it is to pay for energy. We just heard today that our energy bills are going to go up again in April, another £100. So millions of people in this country who are paying their heating bills in order to keep themselves warm, but also to stop mold growing in a flat that, otherwise, what would you do? Would you have the windows open, Mr. Landlord? Would you have the windows open on your empty property? Don't think you would, mate. Just don't think you'd have the windows open in your empty property. So you'd have all this mold growing. Obviously, you got the worry of pipes freezing and bursting. Worry of what if the seal goes on a tap and the place gets flooded? Who's going to let you know? You might only get there a month later and go, "Oh shit, my place has been absolutely flooded. Oh well, never mind. That's going to cost me a lot of money to fix. If only I'd conned someone into staying here for £1,000 a week in this house. And then they could have paid my mortgage for me as well." So your house needs heating. Your second house that you don't need, it needs heating up. Yeah, because if you don't put the heating on, it'll fuck everything up. Okay, and you pay for that heating? No. I got the people who live in the house to pay for the heating. What, to save your house? Yeah. That is one hell of a conversation to have with a bank manager, isn't it? I want to make money in the most evil way I possibly can. Anyway, so moving on. I would like to see a big push, especially in Europe, when we're talking about decoupling away from America. We're talking about that on this channel. I'd like to see a movement towards more ferries, more overnight trains, more integration of our rail networks. And I'd like to see subsidies for green travel, a green travel subsidy. And I don't want it so that families can't go on holiday once a year. I don't have a problem with people taking one or two flights. What I do have a problem with is people taking numerous flights every day when they don't need to. You know, the famous example being Rishi Sunak, 7 flights a day Sunak, just flying all over the place because he could. Didn't need to. He flew to bloody Yorkshire. It's like 2 hours on a freaking train on the East Coast main line. He's like, no, I'm going to fly. I'm going to fly, darling. Absolutely disgusting. Anyway, so Labour have brought in, haven't they? They did mention this in the King's speech that they're going to bring in a rule about it's a tax on people who take more than like 6 flights a year or whatever it was, or was it private jets or something? So that's a step in the right direction. But yeah, I want there to be a promotion for slow travel. And again, it's one of those things where I've tried in the past to try and get some funding to put together a website that tells people how to get around without flying. Like the man in seat 61, but more, not just for trains, but also for buses and public transport around, but also how to get onto cargo ships and what the schedules are and all that kind of stuff. Just all in one place. All that no flying stuff all in one place. How to get around, advice for each particular continent of how to get around that continent without flying. South America, Southeast Asia, India, you split it up. Continents and subcontinents and areas, regions, I should say. And yet nothing. I wrote to some environmental charities a few years ago, and I suggested that I write a fictional blog set 50 years in the future of a woman trying to travel around the world in a world in which the polar ice caps had melted because of climate change. And I was like, look, I mean, this is something that I'll do, but I'd need to be paid, but you don't have to pay me that much, maybe like a couple £100 a week. And I'll write this blog once a week, and that could be a thing that we put online and people can read it. And I had these like ideas of using AI at the time. This was before AI could even do this, but using AI to show this woman snapshots of her in different countries around the world at famous locations like the Eiffel Tower and the Giza Plateau, and seeing them, underwater. and going to cities, seeing New York underwater, and using AI to generate those pictures. And nothing. Absolutely. Well, I got responses saying, no, we don't do that kind of thing. We don't do that kind of thing. Oh, like, who does? Who does? Is there anyone out there who actually wants to support like artistic creation that's done by someone who didn't go to boarding school? Is there? Because if there is, I haven't found it yet. Like you too, I still not found what I'm looking for. But there you go. What? WDYM, no fly zone. We've got Lord of the Flies. Oh, that's very good. I like that. Plum Duff says, I walk to most places. I know not everyone can, but it's free and good for you. When I'm in London, Plum Duff, I try to walk everywhere in London. If I'm in central London, even if it's going to take me 90 minutes to walk to Euston or to King's Cross, I'll walk it. I'll just walk it. I like it. I like walking around. But yeah, I mean, Blue Badger 88, I want car conversion subsidized, reliable quality cars like a 20 14 diesel converted to electric, says Blue Badger. There's a company in the UK that converts classic cars to electric. People ask me what my dream car would be. It would be an electric E-Type. Get an old E-Type, 1963 Roadster, absolute classic, convertible, and put a massive electric engine in it. The equivalent of a V8 electric engine. Yeah, that I absolutely love that. That'd be my dream car. Other than that, Ford Fiesta. I'm happy. Okay, so we're going to be talking now a little bit, since we've got 20 minutes left, about Macron meeting up with Donald Trump yesterday. Macron obviously clearly had a strategy of, flattery. Strategy of flattery and charm, with dear Donald. He's comparing flattery in public with the harsh reality behind closed doors. Because obviously, I guess he's trying to tell Trump what is going on, but I assume that he from that press conference, he's very much trying to keep Trump on side. And I keep going back to that episode of The Twilight Zone in which little Bill Mummy, who went on to be lost in space and in Babylon 5, Bill Mummy plays a character called Anthony that everyone has to be nice to. Everyone has to be nice to him because he can make things happen with his mind. He can just kill you with his mind. And everyone has to be very, very nice. And that was a good thing you did, Anthony. That was a good thing. He just killed someone. And like, that was a good thing. Thank you. And everyone's just standing around, petrified, terrified of upsetting this little monster. And that's the way it came across when watching that news conference with Macron. He's just like, and that there was the bit where he corrected Trump, and Trump did not like being corrected. Trump was saying, "Oh yeah, they've loaned all this money." He's like, "No, that's not a loan. No, it doesn't work like that." But Trump has very much 100% aligned with Russia. He is aligned with the bad guys. He is aligned with the scum out there, voting with North Korea, Belarus, and Russia in the UN to stop a resolution from Ukraine condemning the Russian aggression and asking for Russia to get the fuck out of their country. And yet Trump is aligning himself and therefore aligning America with North Korea. If that doesn't start ringing alarm bells in at least some people's ears, then I think America's done for. And to be honest with you, I've thought that America's done for quite a while now. The US is refusing to offer security guarantees for Ukraine. And Macron's charm offensive, he was on Fox News. He described Trump as a game changer for his supposed deterrence capacity. But Macron is clearly just trying to limit the damage. I don't think he thinks that Trump can be swayed on this. Trump is so far up Putin's arse, he wears him as a hat. This is the reality, the real politic of today. Trump is a huge Putin fanboy. He loves fascism. He loves dictatorships, totalitarianism. He loves the idea of being able to throw his political rivals out of the window. Or not even his political rivals. What Trump wants to do is at some point he wants to throw Elon Musk out of a window. When Elon Musk no longer pleases the king, he wants to throw the court jester out of a window. He'll probably want to do it himself because the guy's a psychopath. And the Supreme Court has said, no matter how crazy you are, you get away with it. But don't worry, everyone. On the day before Biden left office, he made a speech saying, you got to watch out for that rising, authoritarianism. He made a speech. He made a nice speech. Well done. Well done, Joe. You made a nice speech. Stupid old twat. He had the opportunity to put Trump in jail. Just put him in a box, arrest him, put him in a detention camp somewhere far away. Nobody knows where he is. He's called Prisoner X. He could have done that, and what's more, he could have done it legally, and he chose not to. On the old trolley problem, right? He had Trump on one rail, right? And the other rail was America, okay? And by extension, the world. And he had the opportunity to pull the lever so that the train went over Trump rather than America, and by extension, the rest of the world. What did he do? Oh no, I can't possibly, it wouldn't be the right thing to do. So in Biden's stupid little walnut fucking sized brain, he decided that the right thing to do was to let the trolley car trample all over America. And by extension, the fucking world. Cheers for that, Joe. Daft twat. Should have sacrificed Donald Trump. He's just one squishy human. Just put him in a hole. Put him in a hole. Just make him dig a hole in the deserts, in New Mexico. Put him in the hole. Leave him in the hole. That's what you do. That's how you deal with people like Donald Trump. But he didn't do that. And the mad thing is he could have done it legally because the Supreme Court said that anything that the president finds desirable is legal. He is above the law, circumventing the whole point of the Magna Carta in 1215 AD, bringing back the days of divine right absolutism of Louis XIV, the Sun King of Versailles. You've got to look at it like that. You know, historians will look back on the fact that Biden didn't take the opportunity when he was given an opportunity on a silver platter by the Supreme Court to just finish off his rival, like just take him out. It doesn't matter who got elected. You know, they didn't win anyway. No, we can't do that. It would be the right thing to do, and we're going to win anyway, right? He says before dropping out 3 months before the election and giving Kamala Harris barely enough time to get her shit together before the actual election took place. Yeah. Anyway, so Oliver Brown says, I have a 2009 Golf petrol, trying to get rid of it. Good car, the Mark V, go forever. Yeah, I mean, I had a Vauxhall Astra, I had a Ford Fiesta, and I had a Nissan Micra that I bought for 200 quid. 200 quid for the car. Yeah, not for the like wheel trims of the car, but just the car, right? And that was a great little run around. I used that a lot. And then I went traveling around the world and I haven't owned a car since. My partner's got a car, which I'm allowed to drive. Yay. But yeah, I've if I'm going somewhere, to be honest with you, I'd rather take the train, except for the fact the train's so freaking expensive. I had a family funeral yesterday and I had to watch it online because it was down in Birmingham and it would have cost me over £100 to get the train down to Birmingham and back in a day. And I don't have that kind of money, so I couldn't be there, which is really fucking shit because I'm also going to Liverpool this week, and so my travel budget for the month is going to be blown getting to Liverpool. So yeah, it's a bit frustrating, to say the least. Anyway, funny how the assassination attempts have completely stopped, says Gulf Marine. Well, come on, I mean, he's got slightly better security now that he is actually the president. Qualameet, it's no longer a question of the USA surviving Trump. It's now Trump can survive 4 years in office. Yeah, don't say, oh yeah, I don't think you're wrong there. I wish it was more complicated than that. Not sure. It does sound like something Andrews would have wanted. I don't know. California Rain is saying this. I do know it was legal though. If you want more, Ocean Liner Designs has done plenty of videos. My car is petrol, but ULEZ compliant. Yeah, most cars are ULEZ compliant. The vast majority, it's like 94% of petrol cars are ULEZ compliant. It's got to be a really old car that's not a classic in order not to be. Did anyone see the bus stop ads in London yesterday? Goes from 0 to 1939 in 3 seconds. The Tesla swastika. Yeah, Nick and Diff. I saw that. I saw the videos of those posters going up. Fantastic. More of that stuff, please. More subversion. More subversion. You know that it annoys that lot. And that, annoying that lot is something that we should all sort of live for at the moment. We're going to quick look at the papers now. We've got Labour's crime blitz. We're going to have 50 new laws unveiled to tackle yobs and thieves. We're going to make the streets safer. Knives, e-scooters, shop attacks, stalking all targeted, which is good. Oh, Plum Duff. Oh, thank you very much, Plum Duff, for the £20 towards your travel. Oh, Plum Duff, that is very kind of you. I like that. This little like just came up. Didn't mean for that to happen. What I wanted was it to say super chat. Thank you, Plum Duff. That's very kind of you. Cheers. Right, so Trump invites Zelensky to secure peace in weeks. That's the front cover of the Times. Audiobooks could inspire people's passion for literature. We've got Giants of the Art unite against theft by big tech companies, which is about there's like 1,000 artists have released an album of like complete silence. to show what's going to happen if AI is allowed to just pillage people's back catalogue and create their own songs from it. The Daily Mail, gruesome paper that it is. The Truth About Sex in the Cotswolds by Nadine Dorries. If you've got an elderly relative who likes reading the Mail and you're seeing them today, take the kids around. Tell your kid before you go in, especially if they're sort of like 6-7 years old. Get them to pick up the Daily Mail and start reading that. Okay, little 6-year-old reading that thing on the front of the Daily Mail there, and see how quickly their grandfather snatches that paper off them and go, "No, you can't read that." He goes, "Well, what? Why can't they read it? Is it inappropriate? Is it a filthy right wing rag that just lies all the time?" But there you go. Teen killer was on the way to school massacre. A teen gunman who slaughtered his family was stopped by police on his way to carry out a school massacre. That's pretty grim. Trying to work out where the hell this was. He had a shotgun, a kitchen knife, and a bag of ammunition. Yeah, it was in Luton. It was in Luton that he was stopped by the police. Thank God, before he could do something crazy. Nicholas Prosper, his name is. Then we've got the Hollywood's cult of skinny is back, which is a really shit headline for the Daily Telegraph, but then it is a really shit newspaper. Does your husband have miserable man syndrome? I don't think so. God, the Daily Telegraph doesn't make people feel good about themselves, does it? And it's got this picture of Macron and Trump, and this same picture's repeated on a lot of the front covers of the newspapers. You'll see. France's nuclear shield for Europe. Macron's change of tack on defence puts pressure on Starmer to follow suit ahead of Trump meeting. We've got the BBC cameraman for Gaza film glorified the October the 7th massacre, which again, I mean, this is a spin by the Daily Telegraph, so whatever. Badenoch in threat to quit ECHR for keeping criminals in Britain. Badenoch's been threatening to quit the ECHR for bloody years, mate. I mean, I don't think that counts as news. Thank you very much to Alistair Kerm for the £20 super chat. That's really kind of you. Some more funds, Graham. Sorry you had to Zoom the funeral. Had to do that too when COVID lockdown was on. Yeah, Alistair, thank you so much for that. But also, like, you're right. I mean, it is just that was I had a good friend of mine died during COVID, and his body wasn't discovered for 3 days because of lockdown. Like, we were all locked down. We weren't going to visit each other or see each other or whatever. Under normal circumstances, if he hadn't been answering his messages, like, we would have gone round, but we couldn't because we were following the rules. And at the funeral, only 30 people were allowed to go. And we had to live stream it. We had to live stream it for people to watch. And this guy was a music journalist. Like, all things being equal, bands should have been playing at his funeral. Biffy Clyro would have been there. The Manics would have been there. Courtney Love would have been there at this funeral. And instead, it was just like 30 of us in this chapel. People couldn't go. I couldn't take my partner with me, I had to go alone. And I've got to say, like, just the fact that at that same time, those bastards in number 10 were having parties should never be forgot. We talk about not forgetting the wars, right? All the time. Go down the road here to the village, like out of metal. It looks shit. It looks like something that someone's made in their CDT class in the 1980s, at lunchtime in school. A not particularly gifted child. And it's got like, lest we forget. Everywhere around here is like, lest we forget. Like, after the actual wars, they put up some really tasteful markers, like monuments to the people who died. And then since then, I mean, the last sort of 20 years, we've had this resurgence of just building any old shit and going, oh yeah, lest we forget. I think we need the same thing. I think we need the same thing for the fact that they had parties every night while we couldn't be with our loved ones while they were dying, or go to our friends' funerals to watch them on the freaking internet. Yeah, indeed. Right. Moving on. Where they vaccinated, they didn't die. They didn't die of COVID. Died of something else. Roberta Flack, but they weren't vaccinated because the vaccine hadn't come out by then. Roberta Flack, the great soul and R&B Voice behind Killing Me Softly dies at 88. We know lack of flack. But, she had a good innings. Zelensky offers olive branch to Trump. Ukraine talks up prospect of minimal deal to end war with Russia, but Starmer calls on the United States to provide security backstop against Putin as Western leaders hold talks on the 3rd anniversary of the invasion. I don't think Trump's going to do that because he just does what he's told by his master, Vladimir Putin. And then we've got Trump, same picture here with Macron, where I don't know what they're mashing their hands together. That looks AI, doesn't it? Doesn't it look AI? Trump, Putin will accept Europe's troops in Ukraine after ceasefire. I hope so. Chris C, thank you very much towards the travel funds. Oh, thank you, Chris. I was being very generous this morning. That's very kind of you. Cheers. But yeah, I do think we should have like memorial benches with like on one side of the bench, it's like someone alone in like they're sitting there alone and they're in the big empty room, and then on the other side, or maybe someone in a hospital bed in a big empty ward, and they've got like a little machine next to them, and you can see the heart rate has just dropped. Right, so it starts off like that, and then the next one's like this, and then it just goes off to a line. That could be the backdrop. And then on the other side, it's Boris Johnson with his big hair, so you can identify him, and he's having a big party. And it says, "Lest we forget." And we should have those benches everywhere, so no one ever forgets, and no one ever votes for the Conservatives again. Because anyone who votes for the Conservatives is essentially saying, "Yeah, that was a good thing. That was a good thing." Anyway, Financial Times: Britain to join EU leaders for talks on continent-wide defence funding push. And also we've got, we're going to need a bigger nuke. Boffin wards will need lots of luck and plenty of nuclear warheads to stop pesky asteroid from destroying Earth. A huge asteroid bothering Earth needs to be diverted using nuclear weapons, says Boffin, who knows a thing or two. I love the way that they're Boffins, right? Just to tell you, like, the tests they've done, if you tried to nuke an asteroid, it might make the situation worse because it might turn it into lots of smaller asteroids, which are harder to track. So you won't be able to evacuate the areas where you think it's going to splash down, because there's going to be multiple ones of them. It can change the trajectory in unforeseen ways. So if there's an asteroid with only a 2% chance of hitting the Earth, and then you blow it up, suddenly that, half of that asteroid becomes 100% chance of hitting Earth because you don't know which way it's going to go. Apparently, one of the best ways that they've found to divert space objects is by firing bowling balls at them, like essentially playing snooker, like that episode of Red Dwarf. 2 Red Dwarf episodes in one show. That's pretty. 2 Red Dwarf references, sorry, in one show. But yeah, there is a Red Dwarf episode where he plays snooker with planets in order to pluck up a black hole or something. It's a bit like that. You would be better off, instead of using explosives because you don't know, it's too random. You fire essentially a string of bowling balls, giant bowling balls, at the thing that you need to divert, and that'll divert it just slightly, just 1% off its course, which means that it'll miss the Earth. Just saying, but I'm not a boffin, so who knows. And then we've got Demi Sags It to him. This is Demi Moore winning the SAG-AFTRA award for Best Actress, which I think is well deserved. And also Timothy Chalamet won it for The Man Who Wasn't There, or whatever it's called, because we needed another Bob Dylan biopic. There's something the world needed. It's another film about Bob Dylan. Crackdown on sex offenders, name changes, no hiding place for predators. This is about the fact that up till... Oh shit, I'm not showing you the actual papers. No. Pure professionals here. Only professionals. The Metro here. No hiding place for predators. This is a crackdown on sex offenders' name changes. And this is to do with the fact that if you change your name, you can sometimes get away with the fact that you've committed a string of offences in the past. Because your name on the sex offenders register is one thing, so you change your name and it's not on the sex offenders register anymore. So they're trying to end that loophole, which is good. And then we've got Reeves urged to stop state pension being taxed. Labour must act urgently to ensure that state pensions are never taxed. They are already taxed. The state pension is already taxed. If you earn above a certain threshold with your state pension, you have to pay tax on that. Gulf Marine and Phillips Marvelous. Oh, what we say Marvelous? At Marvelario, hopefully. Personally on the side of the asteroid, says Hating Puds. Tuberculosis and measles taking hold in Texas. Where else? Well, all over America. Thanks very much. Alistair Graham, we have 8 memorial benches at the hospital I work. All COVID deaths of staff. I'm so sorry, Alistair. I was being a little bit facetious when saying that we should have a thing to remind us of the parties. But yeah, the people who died, and then you've got these people now who are just so, I don't know, wrapped up in their own craziness, so arrogant, so deluded that they think that COVID never happened. You've got people running around saying COVID was a hoax. The moon landing was a hoax. 9/11 was a hoax. Everything's a hoax. Because, things can't happen. Monumental things can't happen. It's like when someone famous dies and then suddenly everyone goes, oh, there must be something behind it. No. Do you know what? People die every day. Sometimes they're famous. Doesn't mean there was a conspiracy. Doesn't mean they were taken out. Obviously there are some celebrity deaths that are a little bit fishy. Natalie Wood, for instance. But like most people just freaking die. And just because you didn't want them to die because you like them doesn't mean that it's, you're out there demanding to see the coroner's report, like they're a member of your family or something. You got a wall up with all like connections, connecting all the dots. Got to connect the dots. It's just maybe people have just got too much time on their hands. Sex offenders have to register their passports or their identification documents as well as their NI number, so it is hard to change the name already. Plus, they face custodial sentences. Yeah, Pete Dencat says, I wish my credit score was a hoax. Well, yeah. That's something that I think in America, I don't know if they're doing it here, but like landlords are getting the power to fuck with people's credit scores. Maybe it's happening here as well. I don't know. But like, if you ever thought that like landlords might not be a very moral way of making money, that's got to be it, People go, I've got a good, my landlord's good. I've got a good landlord. I've got a good landlord. You don't. A good landlord will be paying you to look after their shit. That house is not yours. It is somebody else's. That flat is not yours. It is someone else's, and you're looking after it for them. The least they should do is let you live there rent-free. And maybe pay a little bit of the money towards the heating bills. I think people should be paid to live in other people's properties. That's the system that we should have. And we should make it against the law to charge people to live in your property. Obviously, this is never going to happen, but, a boy can dream. A boy can dream. Rejoin the EU, universal basic income, outlaw landlords. We don't have to build 1.5 million homes. Just take them. Take them off the people who don't need them because they've already got a home. We have a one home rule. You can have one home, okay? There is one. There are 4 lights. You can have one home, okay? Fine, and doesn't need to necessarily be a shared home. But one home, okay? You can't have multiple homes. As a couple, if you're living together in a house, you can't have another one. Okay? Leonardo's embroidery journey. Happens all the time, though, always. I loved being a crazy cat lady, and now I just had the crazy. Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I'm a cat person who's owned a dog, so I've got a bit of love for both of them. The cats are very calming presence. I think that for people who have ADHD, I think cats are absolutely legendary because they just calm you down. They just come in, calm you down. It's like, hey everyone, it's like having a little Fonzie, and you have a little fairy Fonzie just coming in and going, hey, and just like wants everyone to chill, and then meet him in the men's toilets for a meeting in his office, which is the men's toilets. A leather-clad man taking teenagers into his office, which is the gents' toilets. This is the shit we grew up with. Hey, but yeah, it's like having one of them in your house, except they're cute and fairy and jump on you. Martin says, well, I just had to drive to my next job and was just listening. The chat got so dark. Sorry to hear that, Koala. And I'm glad to hear you're better in a better place. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Look, the enormous crocodile, that says Anne Phillips. That's a Roald Dahl book, isn't it? That's one of his last ones before he carked it. Harushi says the nukes would have to be empty, so vaporize the asteroid shower afterwards. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that it's a particularly great idea because of the uncertainty that would have pushing the asteroid Paula says, Newton's law of motion applied to space objects. Great, takes me back a few years. And Gopamine says, I like hanging with you guys, but it's 2 a.m. and I have to fight fascism in 6 hours. So thanks very much, Gopamine, and thanks very much everyone else for listening. We're going to be back this evening with Geoscope. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the 3rd anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, or the major invasion. Obviously, they actually invaded in 2014. The huge invasion, the mass invasion of Ukraine, in which over 100,000, hundreds of thousands of people have died in this conflict so far, all because of one man's ego and the fact that he doesn't want to be thrown out of a window. So we'll be talking about that. So please join us tonight for Geoscope, me and Ollie Bowler Hatman. And if you can't join us for that, well, join us tomorrow for Morning Brew, and Prime Minister's Questions is going to be back. Actually, will it? Yeah, it will. It will be back. I was going to say, but isn't Starmer going over to visit America? He is, but that's Thursday. So, please come back to us for that, and we'll see you then. And in the meantime, I'll say thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all your wonderful messages. I hope everyone's all right. Take care of each other. And there's a lot of sweet messages in there. People saying we should be good to each other. Give us a like on the way out. That's always a good thing. Who's counting the likes? Alistair, 201 watching. Can we hit the 100 likes? Yes, come on. 50%. 50% accuracy. That's what I aim for. See what I did there. So I'll just say thank you so much for watching. Thanks for the super chats. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.